Hello, low ego action heroes. It is that time again. It is Tuesday, November 24, 2020, and usually it's office hours, Ask Me Anything, where I take questions for an hour, but today we're going to have two special guests taking questions with us. So first, let me remind you that if you'd like to ask questions, you can ask them through the LinkedIn chat, you can ask them through the YouTube chat, and you can ask them through the usual anonymous question link, which I'm going to put up at the top today, deltacx.link/AMA. If you'd like to ask a question and be anonymous because you are bitching about work or complaining about people who might notice you later, you can use the anonymous question version, and I will watch my email for that. And other than that, let's have our guests introduce themselves, just in case you are living under a rock and have not met our good friends Darren and Dr. Nick. Darren, tell us who the heck you are and why we care.
Hi, everybody. My name is Darren Hood. I am a first-gen user experience practitioner. I like saying that. Designed my first site in '95, been working full-time in UX spaces since the mid-2000s, and absolutely love the discipline, and I'm just here to help everybody go forward. That's it. That's my summary introduction today.
Delicious. Dr. Nick, who the heck are you? Oh, you're muted. Hold on. I probably messed this up. Hold on. It's me.
That was me. That was me.
Okay. Go ahead. Now really,
So,
who
hi,
are you?
I'm Dr. Nick. You probably know me because I'm noisy. If you don't know me, I'm a 10-year pro. I have an academic background. Why you should care is all three of us, me included, care about transforming our industry, and we're using our group experience to rectify a lot of wrongs. And if you're part of that, you're going to be a better practitioner moving forward.
And we will love you forever. As they said on the old Japanese Iron Chef, the People's Ovation and fame forever. So we have a question that was asked semi-anonymously before this week even started. So just reminder to people, the link way up there is deltacx.link/AMA. Works all week, and I save your questions for Tuesdays. So here was someone who was having a little problem with a coworker who couldn't seem to let go of a project. The question was, in my UX class, we were taught to have a yes and approach when collaborating with our coworkers. I think this mindset is fine for certain parts of the design process, but sometimes people need to be told no, so we don't get project scope creep. Otherwise, we'll never finish the project. How would you handle a situation where the project is done, but your coworker keeps adding to the project? They think they're making improvements. How do you prove to them the project is done and move on? Nick is making notes. Darren, do you want to start?
Sure. The first thing that comes to mind for me, and I find it shocking, a lot of people don't know about it, but I probably shouldn't be shocked. There's this thing called a project charter, where you have agreed upon principles. This is how we are going to operate within this project. Now, shockingly, over the course of my career, I've had more project charters in academic settings than I've had in work settings. People don't have, whether they call it a charter or not, there is no charter. If there is no charter, then you might as well strap in for the roller coaster ride, because people are going to do things anytime they want to, and there's nothing pretty much to stop them. The project manager is not going to do it in those cases. The product owner is not going to do it. And so if you don't have a project charter and you don't have it in place to help protect you from scope creep, then you're going to have to just try your absolute best to negotiate with these people, which is why negotiation is a good skill to have as a UX professional. Negotiate that we can we stick to this? Maybe we can do that in another rendition and another version down the line, but we can't do that now because there's too much that we have to do in order to deploy what it is we're working on, in order to keep our agile commitments, things of that nature. We can't keep changing. And that whole yes, I worked at a place before that had that. You got to say yes to everything. No, you don't. We are the voice of reason. I never forget somebody telling me that early in my career. The UX person is the voice of reason. We have to say no. We have to do it in a diplomatic, and in a professional way, and we have to provide reasons behind why we're saying no. But say no if they don't agree, if they don't get on board, then that's just what we have to deal with, and go for a walk or whatever. But you got to manage it as best you can. But start pushing for charters.
I'm now going to thank you. Excellent, excellent idea. I agree. And Dr. Nick either has written some notes or he's on the match game, and he has a card where he's going to hold up his answer.
I wish I could, and I nearly held up a password. That would be really bad. The fact that I've even written it down is terrible. Plus evidence in addition to what Darren was saying all brilliantly. Evidence. If you've got evidence. But anyway, for me, I think that's a product manager issue. I really do. They're responsible for or a delivery lead or a project manager. I mean, I know those roles are kind of confounded a bit these days, but the product manager is who's going to be running the roadmap and the priority, and therefore, what you can be doing in the sprint, and therefore the scope. So I would definitely go to the product manager. If the product manager isn't getting involved, I've written down, is it worth it? Now, from me, this is the new me, things that I'm learning, and you'll know that I've gotten into a lot of disagreements and fights, or whatever you want to call them, over many, many years, not being horrible or just trying to do the right thing by saying no, that sort of thing. Some of these fights are not worth it, and I have got to learn sometimes it's just not worth it. Does it impact me directly and heavily? So let's say the scope creeps and we get out and it gets offline. Is that my responsibility? No, it's the product manager's responsibility. I've got my own responsibilities for my role. So you know what I'm saying? It's like at some point you've got to say, okay, it's difficult sitting as a passenger in the passenger seat in a car that's going the wrong direction and that's going to hit a wall. And I've spent way too many years trying to change the car's direction, slow the car down, even change the driver, do all kinds of stuff. Sometimes you've just got to hit the wall and realize you'll survive. It ain't going to kill you. I know that sounds terrible. I think the last thing I want to say very briefly is at my last gig, and I was really proud of these guys. I mean, it was really surprising. A massive multinational pharmaceutical company was practicing straight talking and telling everybody straight talking is the thing. Don't get all upset. People just say what you mean plainly and cleanly, and we'll communicate. And if that's something you can try to do with this person you're working with, you know what I mean? There's no agenda. No one's being personally horrible. We're just trying to do the right thing here. And everybody's, UX people tend to be really passionate. And that's where the sparks fly. And that's where my failings are. I'm too passionate. So just consider where you apply that passion.
Three of us. We are too passionate. We are exploding with UX love. We already have some anonymous questions coming in, so let me throw the next one at you. And remember, this was going to be our lightning round. So I know the three of us are very loquacious, but I'm going to suggest the lightning round version. No, not the... Yes, keep talking, but the lightning round version. Our next question, because these all have monster big answers if left to our own devices. Anonymous question. I noticed Debbie mentioned questionable ethics around large companies. What do each of you hate most about social media, and what needs to happen before things improve? The lightning version. Nick. No crying, Nick.
Authenticity. One word answer: authenticity. No more lies. Less disinformation, more information, more validate information. That's my quick answer.
That's amazing. Amazing lightning version. Darren.
Oh my God. I actually found the question a bit confusing. It seems like it starts narrow, then it broadens out. I don't really understand where they're trying to go. So
we'll never know. It's an anonymous question. So it's what do you hate most about social media, and what needs to happen?
Okay. All right. Good. What do I hate most about social media? That people don't pay attention to words. It's social, people. If you don't know how to socialize, get off. How about that? Here's our passion coming out of you.
We're burning.
I hate these socially inept people engaging on social media. I hate it.
I think if I had to pick what I hate the most, it would probably be the fact that disinformation and lies and manipulation are allowed. and the companies knowingly allow it, and now they're just starting to flag it, but you can still retweet it and you can still share it. And my thought is, if you know it's bullshit and you know it's garbage, or you know it's hurtful, or you know it's hate speech, why is it still there? So I think we could clean up a lot really fast if we got rid of the misinformation, disinformation, lies, propaganda. I know the question is, ooh, what's propaganda? Because each side thinks the other side is propaganda, but there's got to be some sort of fact checker who can say, hi, I'm science-minded, this is true and this is not.
Yeah.
Oh, Nick wants the hearts. Okay, Nick, just for you. All right, we've got another anonymous question and then a non-anonymous question. So let's see. And I've got too many windows open. Let's close some windows. This is a long question, so I might have to read the meat again when we get done. Because a lot of times in the anonymous questions, it's therapy time. So we get people's, they're pouring out like, my job sucks. How do you recommend dealing with colleagues who think they know better than you? So that's the core of the question. I've been dealing with a product manager for a while now who thinks they can do my job and is constantly making suggestions to the way I do my research that aren't really suggestions, but rather trying to dictate to me what sort of methodology I should be using. I'm new to this company, whereas this person has been there for a few years, and I feel a little helpless, especially in a culture where nowadays it feels like everyone on a team is encouraged to jump in and be a UX designer or UX researcher. Oh, everyone's a designer. So again, that was an excellent story and one I'm sure we can all sympathize and empathize with. And the core question was, how do you deal with colleagues who think they know better than you? Darren?
I think EQ is key. The more emotionally intelligent we are, the better we can navigate and manage ourselves in those situations, because they burdensome and they can be traumatic. But what I recommend is, I love the power of entreaty. So when somebody is giving you all their ideas, asking them questions, vet out what they're saying. Okay, let's treat it like what you're saying is dead on accurate. That means that you're willing to subject it to scrutiny. So I'm going to lead the scrutiny by asking questions, and they usually diffuses people. When the team sees that people can't explain what it is that they're doing, it pretty much shuts that kind of thing down. And then you have to be ready to demonstrate expertise alongside that, because we don't like it, but we end up competing. The reality of it. Are we endorsing it? No, but we compete. So if you lend yourself to entreaty and ask questions and ask people to validate things, subject what they say at the testing, that'll help too. That'll help shut it down.
Okay, great. Nick, your thoughts there?
The nature of the product manager persona is generally of that manager type, right? They want to be the manager of the people they're not a practitioner. They're more strategic rather than tactical. And that means that they feel like they can challenge and blah, blah, blah. And they can to an extent because it's their project or product in many respects. But you're not necessarily challenging them as a product manager, and they shouldn't necessarily be challenging you all the time as a researcher or as a UX designer or whatever your role is. However, there are lots of different levels of maturity around the place, and you have to change your response to that level of maturity. And so, Darren and I in particular know, because as PhD folk, we know about defense because it's core to our experience. We've been brought up knowing that we have to be able to defend absolutely everything we're saying and doing with evidence in a logical, well-constructed argument. So I expect when I'm challenged, even by a product manager or whoever it is, that it's an education opportunity. And I know that sounds trite and a bit naff, but it really truly is in a thing. The challenge is to try to keep your powder dry and to not see the red flag and to get all angry, because I do get frustrated when it happens a lot. There we go. You know what I mean? I think we all do. You just want to say, look, please leave me alone to get on doing my job, but you have to bring them on the journey, and they're freaking out because it's their product. That's it, I would say. Sorry.
Darren, you have something to add?
Yeah, I just want to throw one more thing. I love what he just said, and thinking about the little message that was posted. I think it's good for us to also welcome the challenge. We will get far from a relationship management perspective. We'll do better to welcome the challenge and then just respond to it. Don't take it personally. Don't take it as hostility, even though sometimes it is personal and sometimes it is hostile. Welcome it, give the response, and you actually will help to settle that person down as well. You'll find that they'll depend on you more than trying to challenge you if you welcome what they're saying.
And Nicholas over in LinkedIn says, love the concept of lending ourselves to intrigue when dealing with individuals that think they can do the design and research. Great insight. Darren, thank you for this tool to add to our kit. And you're getting some other thanks as well, both of you. And for me, sometimes I have just, to say something different than these guys, sometimes I've just escalated it to my manager. I've said, hi, you hired me. You know I can do this. I'm here to do this. I've got this other person who technically is my blocker, right? In Agile, we want to know who's blocking us. This person is my blocker because they're trying to do my job. They're interfering in my job. They're trying to overmanage my job. And magically, they're not inviting me to any sessions where I get to help with the product management. This is a very one-way thing. So, hey manager, can you please help me maybe get with the product manager's manager and figure this out? Now, to point back to something Darren said earlier, if there were a project charter, I believe a project charter also typically outlines the different roles and responsibilities of the people on the team. And if you had the project charter, then it would say the product manager plays in this zone and the UX person plays in this zone, and this is where there's any overlap and this is where there's collaboration, and the project charter should have covered that. So yes. There you go. I hope that helps our askers. We've got more questions rolling in. We've got one from Ralitza. I think I can put it up on the screen because it came from YouTube. And that is, I have a question for Darren and Nick. Wow, she doesn't want to hear from me. No, I'm kidding. I talk to her like every day. What do you think should a well-crafted persona contain? Not a shitty persona, a well-crafted persona. Nick, he's got the evil grin. Nick.
But you'll hear it's the same two-word answer, or it's a container of data. So if you think of your persona as literally a container for the data, your research data, then it's well crafted. It's well crafted when it supports the needs of the data that you've got and the product at hand and the audiences. So a really badly done persona is you download a template and kind of hack it around and put some crap in there and move some sliders around, which means nothing. A well-constructed persona is one that, one of my previous gigs recently, they had a really overdone jobs to be done based persona, and it wasn't bad, it was just really overdone. I simplified it down to 2 columns, user needs and pain points. But really, it could just be user needs, because a pain point is a form of a user need. So that's the way I look at it. And if you're storing user needs, you're storing the data, your insights, then they're well crafted, because you can hand it to a designer or to anybody else and they can use it with confidence.
Great. Thank you. Darren, well-crafted persona.
I love that. This one is hard to answer from a lightning perspective, but I will try this. One of the things, I got tired of all those terrible templates that are out there. I literally went to images.google.com the other day to show some personas to some people I was talking to, and I found on this one screen, it was like at least 50% the same exact template. And now they started putting brands on them. So I think apparently the boot campy mindset on personas is starting to permeate our space. So now we have to push back on that because it doesn't work. A well-crafted persona it's good to have the visual, because you want that. Without having that visual on there, a lot of people, the UX person might be able to relate to the users, but the stakeholders can't usually relate to the users. So you need that big on persona libraries. So I remember one company I worked at, I had a wall, and when I came, they had one persona, and that person was a supervisor. Good luck. I ended up, when I left, there was a wall. There was like 10 to 12 personas. These people all look different. To Dr. Nick's point, you've got your goals. I do like to include pain points, especially with this mix of users, because the pain points will vary. And I wanted to give the team a nice picture of this broad set of pain points that we're trying to address. So pain points, user needs. I like to put different attitudinal elements or skills. This person is not really good. They're somewhat of a technophobe. If I have a persona that's a technophobe, I want that reflected. I want the team to see that. There are different aspects about their experience level. So it's going to vary. Those are some of the base things. It's going to vary based on who you're designing for, but those types of things I think are core. And it might vary a little bit, again, from company to company or from project to project. But you've got to have those base core things in a persona. This brand thing that everybody's doing now, throw that out. That's completely worthless. That's just something cute that somebody does. I've looked at, you got a Coca-Cola brand, who are their favorite brands? I think that's what they've been doing now. That's become popular. Yeah. I don't care who their favorite brands are. What does that have to do with what we're, here comes the passion again. What in the world does that have to do with what we're doing? Nothing. How is that going to impact what you're designing? It's not. Throw that out. Stop buying into mass-produced stuff. Remember that I used to be on AOL because we thought it was the thing? And then when you finally got some critical thinking, you went and you got your internet access from somewhere else. It's the same thing. The Xerox machine, all these other companies have a copy machine, but you call them all Xerox machines. Let's not let that mindset come into our arena. It's already here. Let's evict it. So.
Thank you. I'm going to have to get a lightning graphic that I'll have to put up just to remind us. But I want to say for personas, I think there's one word here that sums up what everybody has said, and that is actionable. I don't care what brand they like. I don't care what color their skin is. I don't care how much money they make. There's so many things I see in some of these templated personas that I don't care about. If it's not actionable, if it doesn't help you spin up future research, if it doesn't help you do information architecture, if it doesn't help you make design decisions, take it out. I don't care if they have 2 kids. I don't care if they drive a Volvo, unless this is absolutely germane to our project or brand or company. I am so sick of seeing, here's the man persona, here's the woman persona, here's the white person, here's the non-white person. Guess what? I don't design differently for non-white people.
Unless it's specifically a thing, but that's
unless their company is targeting non-white people, then we're all designing for non-white people. That isn't a special persona. That's the target audience. Nick, did you have something you wanted to add in lightning form?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, because Darren, actually, yes. When Relitza asked her question, she specifically said well-crafted persona. And that well-crafted bit is a telltale, a really big telltale, because we've all heard that, well-crafted personas. No one talks about personas, they talk about well-crafted personas. Now, that well-crafted element is coming from traditional design with a capital D. And that's design thinking, like design way of thinking, rather than design thinking like product thinking. That's the double diamond stuff that you keep seeing. That crafting is what designers and creatives do to create something. They craft it. It's, you know what I mean? It's chipping it away. It's lots of iterations. That's the wrong mindset for a persona. You don't craft them visually like we're talking about here. You don't even craft them in terms of now then, like what Debbie was saying about wears a Rolex, plays golf on a Sunday and drives a whatever. Who cares? I can't design to that. So that's all I wanted to say is be careful with this well-crafted stuff, because a lot of the advice you're getting are from designers and UX UI who bring design thinking, and it's not the right level of right sort of thinking. Design thinking and product thinking, this is a gold nugget. Design thinking and product thinking and UX UI are all things that are trying to kidnap basic UX. There you go.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to cut it there, and I can promise you that Relitza is not falling victim to the sirens of design thinking, since I am personally coaching her. So don't worry there. She said, I used well-crafted because there's a bunch of crap templates out there, and they don't strike me as good. And she's right. We have so many questions pouring in. Here's what's coming next. Next question. When you have many years experience under your belt and achieve a lot, as you all do you have any professional goals and aspirations left to fulfill? So these are asking us personally, when we've come this far? You know, what's left to do? Nick, what's left to do?
You got to be kidding me. I can't say for Darren and Deb, but for me, I have the same challenges as you. Finding a job, being content in the job, worried about where my next dime is coming from, worried about my future career. It's all the same as you guys. I don't feel like I've climbed the mountain. I'm looking down at everybody from my pile of money and success, right? I'm exactly the same as you guys, with the same panics, the same anxieties. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone else will say the same thing, because yes, okay, I'm academically successful and I've got a good career behind me, but that doesn't change anything. I've still got to go through the same layers that you do of recruitment and hiring people. What my dream would be to get a head of UX job somewhere, training and mentoring the world's most coolest team, driving amazing sales, amazing products and service, kicking ass. That I would do that till the day I died. I'd have retired. I'd be the happiest man in the world. Can I get a job like that? Not for love nor money. Cannot find one that will pay me anything close to my value or any half of it. And that's where it's at. Or people they want a bearded designer type. I'm a scientist. I don't fit the persona. Or I'm neurodiverse. They don't want that either. So I've got all kinds of crazy challenges that you have. I can't seem to land where I want to. So like Kane from Kung Fu, I go from gig to gig, getting into fights and adventures. You know?
Me too. Darren, you.
I love that answer. And I'm going to borrow the same word. I'm going to repeat two of the things that he just said. One is contentment. I never forget somebody asked me, so Darren, are you happy? And I've told multiple people, I'm not trying to be happy. I'm trying to be content. I learned that it's wiser to try to be content. So I just want to be content. I want something that I can work with. You have a great boss. That's one of the things you got to shoot for. That's a goal. A great team. That's something that you got to shoot for. So my big thing is contentment. When it comes to career pursuits, I feel exactly the same way as Dr. Nick. I would think that at my level, that I would be in some type of, I'm happy where I have landed. I just landed in an LX role at a major university in the States. I'm very happy about that. And I hope this is my forever job/employer. I hope it really is. But just speaking about UX at large.
You sound like you're an adoptable puppy. You're like, I hope this is my forever home.
Yes, and I love that. I embrace that too. But I should have been the head of UX somewhere. I should love your dogs.
Thank you. Me too.
I should have been head of UX somewhere. I've been a manager before, but when I tried to get a director position, and this company is in Germany, I tried to get a director position, and because I embarrassed them doing things like talking about information architecture, they blocked my attempt to get into the director position. So I've gone through some of the same things as Dr. Nick. I posted for, I'm gonna bust on this one this time. I posted for a head of UX job with Ford Motor Company. The Ford Motor Company is in the business of hiring as many unqualified people as they possibly can, even to global leadership positions. So yeah, I'm busting on them because they suck. The people like me, I wondered why people like me end up consulting. It's because the doors slam in their face. After you get so much experience, no one treasures you. Nobody wants to hear from you. Nobody embraces you. And so then you end up, I've worked at places where just because I take a stand, they call me a gatekeeper. I'm not a gatekeeper. We want excellence. In our discipline requires somebody to tend the weeds, to pull the weeds out of the garden. It needs to be watered. It's a young profession. And if we don't have people like us that are willing to take a stand for it, it's going to do the same thing that happened when I was in instructional design and technology started to come into instructional design and everybody ran for the hills. And then they flooded the instructional design world with PowerPoint jockeys who knew nothing about the science of educational design. The same exact thing is happening today, and people like me end up consulting or you end up somewhere else having to switch careers. I spent a time on LinkedIn trying to convince people not to walk away from UX, and some of them walked away anyway because they got sick of all the foolishness that's going on out here. And a bunch of folks, even people listening today, if you can't relate to it, I get it because you have to experience it. But if you can't hang in there, watch and see when you start approaching year 10. If you're a real UX professional, watch and see what happens. Because if the organization doesn't want anything to do with you, the newbies who are afraid of you, instead of embracing you so you can lift them up higher, they'll be afraid of you. And then you end up in this turmoil-oriented whirlpool, I've called it before. So I don't even set my sights on being ahead of UX. I'm happy. I'm happy where I'm landed. I'm very thankful for it, and I am content. And that was my goal.
So this is Office Hours Ask Us Anything, which has somehow turned into group therapy. And we have a comment coming into me privately from one of my best friends, Chris in Colorado, who says Darren isn't wrong, but it turns off employers. They just want to hear they're doing great. How do we fix that? I hope he doesn't mind me reading that out.
It's my turn to start on this one?
What are you holding up? Evidence.
Evidence. And my take is the only thing we can remotely do to change organizations is to hopefully get a position and try to have influence on managing the UX maturity level. If the UX maturity level in an organization is on the lower end to the non-existent end, people who are higher on the UX seniority scale have absolutely no hope in those environments, because they will not understand you, they will not trust you, they will not value you, they will commoditize you, and you will end up being like jerry-rigged into something else. That's what's happening. And that goes to IBM and the puzzles that you have to do before you get hired. That's ridiculous. They're hiring professional puzzle completers, not UX people. That's ridiculous. That's what's happening out there.
The questions are piling up. I'm going to have to remind everybody lightning version. And just a reminder for everyone listening live, the three of us are going to do this again in a week, next Tuesday, December 1st, another Office Hours Ask Me Anything. And I know we said we might stay. Usually I stop in about a half hour, but I think we said we would try to stay a little bit longer today, if that works for all y'all. So we're going to do 2 extra long ones because there are so many questions rolling in. So here they come. And again, good luck with the lightning version on this one. How do you start and manage a UX redesign for a product?
That's easy. Speak to people, find out their needs.
Very easy.
It really is. It's basic UX. I mean, you go talk to the people. If it's a brand new product for which there's no existing concept, then it's much more discovery. You've got to work out what the current way of doing things is, where the current blockers are, and how your new thing addresses those problems effectively, or at least at the most general level. But you're looking to uncover user needs. Lightning version.
Yep.
Darren?
And lightning version, from a redesign standpoint, you want to find out what the current state is. You want to find out there's any data that you can use to help you going forward. And then you begin to build from there. The current state is critical, because when you get that in the data, then you can find out what the low-hanging fruit is, and you can redesign to make improvements.
Great. The only thing I would add to that is observational research, because asking somebody what's going wrong and watching what's going wrong are sometimes two completely different species. Yeah. Yes. Wiggle.
Very quickly, ultra lightning. If it's a redesign project and it's a live big thing, go straight to the call center, speak to the team leader, find out what the number 1 issues are. And number 2, go to the App Store, look at the reviews, Trustpilot, all that stuff. Find out where the muck is being read, or the Facebook groups, read those. It's an existing product. There's a shitload of user need already out there.
Yeah, that's going to be your a lot of good secondary research, and it's exactly what Roshan was just saying in the YouTube chat, which was talk to the support people, find out how many angry emails they got for their existing design, and go from there. By the way, I want everyone to know a number of people have written in to say we are their 3 favorite people in UX, so I am absolutely honored. Thank you. Thank you to the fans, and of course, please remember to subscribe. I'm down here. Please subscribe on the YouTube channel. Usability test the subscribe button. Ring that bell. And of course, empathize with the like button. Let the YouTube algorithm know you love the tops of our heads and you want to see more of these and you want YouTube to recommend it to other people. So let's get back to the questions. This was from something Nick mentioned earlier when he talked about personas and he said jobs to be done. The question came in, what do you all think of the jobs to be done framework? Do you see it as an overcomplication of personas or a better way to go in terms of getting to the crux of user needs? Who wants to go first on jobs to be done framework? Nick?
I'll take it. Yeah, sure. I've had this one recently. The way I see it is jobs to be done is just, it's like an advanced version of user needs. It's like the more higher resolution version. I think it definitely has use in some areas. I think in education and training, it's very powerful in terms of illustrating the power of user needs and finding out what a real user need is, going backwards and all the whys and all that good stuff. It's fantastic from that perspective. I think from a persona perspective, it's overcomplicated. At least for low maturity organizations, it's way too much for the novice product or novice UX person to take on board. So I personally find I've had this in the past 6 to 12 months. I've had this actually with live teams, replacing jobs to be done with user needs and the penny drops. They get it. Whereas if you go with jobs to be done, it's too much of a mountain to climb and the muscle memory kicks in and they revert back to old thinking because it's too hard to acquire.
Darren, something to add?
This is going to be very lightning on this one. I have never in my entire career been involved directly on a jobs to be done, looking at it from that mindset. I've seen people mention it, never been a part of anything that I've done. So I really don't have any, beyond that, I don't have anything to contribute on that topic. If you think about user needs, though, if that's just another way that user needs are coming up, the way that it's being managed or viewed from our end, then that sounds good to me. But I've never had anybody present a jobs to be done list or anything like that.
Nick?
It's worth mentioning that product people, because product people do think in jobs to be done terms. That's the meeting point. That's the meeting of minds, and that's also where the intersection and the trouble can happen. So yeah, as long as you can agree that interface, everything will be happy. It's when they don't line up, there'll be a problem.
Yeah, and what I would add to that is I haven't smashed into too much jobs to be done. I mostly think more in terms of task analysis and looking for people's tasks and workarounds and how they approach things now. So I guess I'm a little bit more of a task analysis person, which I hear is a pseudo competitor to jobs to be done. I don't think people think in terms of jobs to be done. I think they think in terms of tasks or things they have to accomplish. So I don't know, jobs to be done seems a little overformalized. Let's just do task analysis. Darren's waving at me. Darren, something to say?
I just recorded episode 28 of my podcast, and guess what I'm talking about? Needs analysis and task analysis.
Yay.
It's on the episode that rolled out today. And so task analysis actually is much older than jobs to be done. It's the world of UX.
Oh, it's the world of UX? Hold on, let me fix that. I thought you were UX Uncensored.
No, that's the YouTube channel.
Whatever.
Yeah, there we go.
Get your branding straight.
but I didn't want to use the podcast. Pardon?
I was taught task analysis in 0405 as part of my master's.
Yes. I brought that over from instructional design when I saw that it fit. And I talk about it specifically, use an example on the podcast. And I say the task is change password. I talk about how it's always verb, noun structured. And then you go and you break down, you get the steps. So these are your subtasks. And that helps you to identify where the micro experiences and the micro interactions are. And we talk about all of those things. So sometimes I just hear people use something that's like I call it a flavor of the week, is what I tend to call it. That's something that somebody came up with. It already existed. It was called something else. I don't care what you call it. I'm just going to go do the work. And just hearing what you guys are saying about this jobs to be done, it already exists. And a lot of people who don't have experience love renaming and rebranding things. And that needs to stop too.
Moving on.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Where was I? Now I forgot where I was. Okay, so we have another question, and it said, that's what I wanted to say. December 7, everybody, mark your calendars, because we're going to do instead of a live podcast, we're going to do what I call my micro lessons. That's where we devote an hour and a half to a tactical lesson on a specific thing. I've done personas. I've done, what else did we do? We did some information architecture stuff. And December 7, we're going to have Larry Marine on, and he and I are going to show you how to do his flavor of task analysis, which is probably a pretty delicious flavor. I've just done one with him. Oh, it's Larry Marine writing. Hold on a second. He's here.
Hey, Larry.
I was just plugging our upcoming thing. He says, it's so comforting to hear knowledgeable experts talk about task analysis. Yay. So everybody join us December 7 for a live lesson with Larry, Marine, and the me. So we've got a pile more questions, but luckily we've got time. So our next question is, what do hiring managers look for in a UX designer candidate? What's a good or great UX designer candidate look like? Darren? Why is there?
You know my mind.
I'm just calling on you. Nothing's happened yet.
Because the first thing that I think about is all the terrible recruiting that's going on in hiring managers. What should they look like? Let's happy path this.
Yeah.
To keep them up in the mire and to keep it in the line because hiring is a mess. I did a talk years ago specifically for, it was a UX conference specifically for people who are hiring managers. I did a talk called Square Pegs, and find it out on YouTube. Check it out to let it give you some of the strategies. But they have to look for, depending upon the type of role, you want to look for some type of experience. Education can come into play, can help you realize that you're going to give somebody more structured if they have. That's what education, the UX education should bring to the board, is some structure. But you want to see some experience. You want to see on the personality side, you want to see passion. You want to see somebody who's inquisitive, things of that nature. So in short, how much experience do they have? Then you're gonna branch that out based on what you're hiring for. But no matter what you're hiring for, whether it's entry level or senior, you want to make sure that you have that passion and inquisitiveness. You want to try to understand what their EQ level is, because that's going to help. Because no matter where you go in UX, you're going to be managing some relationships somewhere. So the more emotionally intelligent a person is, the better they're going to be for the team, and the better they'll fit with your team. You don't have to struggle with them. So that's my lightning answer on it.
Thank you. Lightning answer, Nick. You look lightning-y, Nick.
Yeah, pretty much what Darren said, especially around the attitude part. I think attitude is everything, actually, and it depends on the level that you're recruiting. If we're talking about junior, then obviously it is much more about attitude and, kind of chemistry to some level. Inquisitiveness is important. I personally, as a hiring person, when I am hiring, I look for that passion. I look for an attention to detail and that kind of giving a shit factor, which no one really talks about. Do you really, with no one looking, do you give a damn? It's that maturity. It's that, do you really want to find out for real? And that, I find that rare and beautiful. So I hire that on site. Yeah.
Sorry, just typing to someone in LinkedIn who keeps asking a question and doesn't. People don't know that their question's on our list, so they're like, "Hey, where's my question?" Okay, so the question was, "What's a great candidate look like?" I think for junior and lower level, for me, it's, can you actually do this? Because most of the portfolios I look at, they can't do the work. I'm sorry. You've all gotten tough love for me if you've sent me a portfolio. It looks like they're just not ready to do the job. And I go back to episode 56. Sorry to cover Darren. But, we've got our building blocks, our strategy and technique, and our strategy. And so many portfolios I see are building blocks. I used Figma. I talked to customers. I filled in a persona template. I call those building blocks. Science and technique is, I used a proper UCD or HCD approach and good technique to do this at a scientific level with skill and proficiency. Otherwise, the building blocks are what make everybody at our job think they can do UX. Well, she just plugged crap into a persona template. I could do that too, and I'm the QA guy. So yep. So I'm looking for the science and technique. I'm looking for someone who does this. And of course, to add to the types of things Darren normally says, I'm looking for critical thinking, right? I haven't seen my hat in a while. I'm looking for critical thinking. I'm looking for detective hats. I'm looking for logic, deductive reasoning, prediction of possible outcomes, problem finding, problem solving, and being a low ego action hero. Sorry to keep covering Darren with all the pictures. Everything's on the... Next time we'll switch you guys and Nick can be covered up because he's off on the right anyway. So So that's what I would say about what a good or great candidate looks like. I can't say you must have 27% this and 43% this. It's really like, can you do the work correctly? That's how low my standards are. So there you go. So next, Darren, back to you.
One real quick, Beck. You know what hiring managers need to get good at? Spotting people who fudge their resumes. That is happening at epidemic
And
proportions
portfolios.
all over the world. Yes, and people are putting things together trying to show that they're qualified and they're not, claiming that they have 9 years of experience in UX when they have 9 seconds. You have to. It's good to have exercises to help people spot those folks. I had to do it when I was a manager. I've done it to keep companies from hiring people who were lying, and you could tell that they were lying. Some of them even got so bad that they were lying, and they caught it and they covered it up during the interview that they had way into this thing. You got to keep those people out because they bring down the company, the team, and the discipline.
Now we've got someone. Their next question was someone picking on Nick. So that should be interesting. And it says,
Let's go.
Can we get Nick to tell us his favorite section of the Delta CX book? His book looks packet fresh. Ha ha.
Shit. I won't say that.
I didn't even come for it. Did come in anonymously, but it's not me. Look, my boyfriend hasn't read my book. So if you haven't either, I still love you both.
Okay, so I read it cover to cover, line by line? No,
it's a lot of pages.
Have I been in and out of it? Yeah, hell yes. So I've read the introduction, and what I love about it is it's effectively everything that Debbie is doing with Delta CX, if you know what I mean, encapsulated in something physical and real. So from that respect, it's got all the attitude that you're hearing here today, and here that everything that Debbie does is expressed in every line that she writes and every paragraph she writes. So you're not only getting the content and those building block stuff, but you're also getting the higher level stuff indirectly. You probably don't even realize you're getting it because it's the way that it's written and the way that she's telling her story or this story. So it's almost like it's one of the fewer sources of truth in this UX digital world.
Thank you. And that's not fishing for compliments. Someone actually answered that. I think because your book looks uncracked in the back, but it's someone's just taking the piss, as you guys say.
I'll prove it to you.
There you
go.
No, it's big. I know. It's as the Monty Python sketch would say, it's only for hand-to-hand combat. I like to say it's the length of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. So it's not a quick afternoon read. But if you're looking to avoid the family on Thanksgiving Day, tell them you've got a book to read. Let's move on. Our very good friend, who I'm so happy to see is back in the audience, Peaches! Peaches, how have you been? Oh my God, I meant to put up Peaches' thing and I accidentally hit clear. So Peaches' question is not going to come up, but I've got it written over here. I hit clear instead of send. UX. Peaches wrote... where is it? What would you say the most important skills are for a UX professional to build before they move to being a contractor? I'll try to find that.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Skills to build before being a contractor. I do want to say, I found it. I do want to say that I've got a really old podcast in the live stream podcasts playlist on YouTube. And I think it's like episode 15, and I'm up to tomorrow will be 89. And it was my advice on some things that contractors and freelancers should make sure they have in their contracts. So if you are looking at branching out to more contracting or freelancing or trying to be your own mini agency, please go watch that one, because I can't tell you how many people I have pulled out of a drowning river because they entered into a handshake deal with someone who later took terrible advantage of them, and they didn't know how to get out of that situation, and I had to do it. So please make sure that. Outside of that, what would either of you say are important skills to move to contracting?
I'd make sure you are confident in everything you do. Sorry, Darren, if you're about to talk. I'm really sorry for jumping in there. Sorry.
No.
Lightning version. Go.
the way that I was kind of brought up, or the way that my world was, at least in England or London, that's just my corner of the world, was that people who went contracting were like these gurus, these Jedi, people who were at the top of their game. So I spent the first 5 or 6 years of my career permanent, and then the next 5 or 6 contract. It took me 5 years to get that level of confidence, and even then, I think I was probably, anyway, the point being is, whatever you're going to do, go out there. You need to have a very well-rounded skill set, because you need to be able to deal with pretty much everything. The contractors that struggle out there are those who don't have well-rounded bits. They've got some big holes like IA or a certain vertical sector, and then they get super defensive, and it affects their strategy, it affects the outcome, and it's just one big fight, and you don't want to be there. They just want to
do another design sprint.
Don't start. I know you're trolling me here.
Wow. Darren, do you have something to add to that about skills to build before contracting?
Yes, I do. I think, and piggyback Dr. Nick said, because you have a lot of people that are in UX, there are times that I've regretted being I should say I paid the price for being qualifying as a generalist. So I can do IA. I can evaluate heuristic evaluations, research. I can do interaction design, interface design. I can follow the principles. And so I can do all of those things, and I'm confident in all those things. It put me in a position where just launched a new consultancy 2 weeks ago. Can do all of those things because of that. But that same generalist, for lack of a better word, has kept me from getting jobs as well. So I know the question is about being a contractor, but just throwing that out there to make sure that you're aware, because you never know when you're going to go back and forth of what you're going to do. And a lot of companies don't respect generalists as much as they respect somebody who has been, I've been doing research for years, but they'd rather have somebody who's been doing nothing but research for the last 5 years. And I've run into that. So beyond that, make sure you're good at your business management acumen, because if you get out there because you have the skill, but you don't have the business management acumen, then you're going to run into another problem anyway. And you got to plan for the long haul. If you're going to do it, be prepared. And a lot of what it takes to be successful has nothing to do with UX as much as it has to do with business. So.
And I would add to that, if this is just about contracting and kind of, Peaches, I don't know if you're American, but if you're American, if you're talking about going from being a full-time employee to more of like a 1099 contractor or consultant, then you also have to become master of the financial spreadsheet, because there's so many things to juggle in America that other countries don't have to think about, like how will you get health care and pay for health care, and who's going to put away money in your retirement account or things like that you were used to a job taken care of. And what I've done now I've got a corporation for myself, but what I've done is I've set up a payroll service, and yeah, it costs me $50 a month, but that means when I pay myself, it's all legal and the correct taxes are taken out and things like that. You just don't want to get caught later owing taxes or being confused about how much you should have charged. I know a lot of people undercharge on their hourly rate because they forgot that they're going to have to pay for their own health insurance if you're not getting it from a spouse or partner, etc. So thing one, the change to contracting for a lot of people is about finances. Opecha says American, living in London, but definitely all the extra financial stuff, lack of benefits scares me. Yeah, so definitely become master/mistress of the spreadsheet. And Tango says get an accountant. And so, and again, if you're an American living in London and I'm an American living in Italy, you need accountants, possibly plural. In America, I do my own taxes and my own corporate taxes. I'm a bit of a fan of Intuit stuff, not sponsored. I just do my taxes easily. In Italy, I have an accountant who I pay, and she takes care of all the stuff that I have to do legally for Italy. So make sure you're doing your stuff for London. And then on the other side of it, if you really mean being more of a consultant, then to me, it's all about, and sorry to cover up Darren, but it's all about strategy. I think what separates out a lot of freelancers and contractors from some of the better contractors or consultants or freelancers is being able to be strategic about a project. If you are not able to be strategic and have that project management side where you can say, you need to do this, we need to learn this, we should interview this many people, do this type of observational research, I'm going to give you these types of documents, we're going to learn this, and then these are the actionable things that are going to happen after that. This is how many hours or days I need. This is the risks. This is what happens if we go over, and this is what I charge for that, and blah, blah, blah. And for that, you have to be highly strategic, great at estimating time, and things like that. So that's what I would suggest there. Moving on, let's see, where am I? Do either of you have a line of questioning or approach that helps you identify actionable data and cut out the information that isn't valuable to the research or design being conducted?
Yeah.
Someone, say something.
I'll jump in. I know he's going to.
Darren, you go first. I'm always talking. Sure.
One of the things I like doing, it makes me think about an approach I have when I'm constructing research, when I'm strategizing about research, is always thinking about what are we trying to find out? What is it that we need to know that will help to move the needle for us? And so when you know what kind of data is critical, and you don't always know, have to say that, but when you know what you need to find out, or you may know, if you don't know that, you know what you need to get information about, then you're going to structure. Think of an example. Say if we're trying to make an improvement on a process within an application, and say time to task, just as a quick example. Time to task is going to be critical. So we're going to structure the usability test as efficiently as we can. And then say we're using something like user testing, it's going to automatically calculate the time to task. So we're going to look at the time to task that we already have, may already have that data. We may have already benchmarked that data for time to task. And then when we conduct a new research, then we're going to look at this. So we know that this time to task is confirming that we have made ample improvements. If we find out that it got worse, then that data becomes actionable in the sense that it lets us know that we need to go back to the drawing board. We need to take another look at what we're doing. So you either know what it is what data you need, or you know that you need data about a given thing, and you make sure to design in a way that the result, you know what the results are generally going to be, and you design so that once those results come in, you can be ready for that synthesis of the data. A lot of people talk about analysis, but you have to be ready to recommend or provide recommendations based on what that data is saying, the synthesis of it. So that's my take on it.
Nick?
I worked with a guy, an inexperienced, self-taught 3-year so-called senior researcher who used to sit there and do depth interviews with every single person he spoke to and killed them, like absolutely killed them. When, followed all kinds of weird lines of inquiry, just it's like, just digging and just taking, you're digging for gold, but you take everything home and sort it out at home, which is just ridiculous. It's all about user needs, and the best user researchers, or at least, from my perspective, the best user researchers are those that can hone in on those user needs with their questioning, if that's the way we're doing it, in the most effective, efficient, quick way. So many of these so-called interviews, I believe, can be done in 15 or 20 minutes. You can get what you need if you're efficient. Other people just want to, I've got what I need whilst we're here. No, that's not appropriate.
Yeah, while we're here,
I'll stop before I start ranting.
But do you like this? Do you like this? Do you want this? So I think the only thing I can add to that is actionable data and research. I guess in the back of my mind, I kind of always have my own decision matrix kind of running around, and that's in part 1 of the book. And it's also on the Delta CX website. And basically, it's how many people does this probably affect? How urgent or severe is this? what would be the cost to undo or redo this? If the company got this wrong, especially if their fix was wrong or whatever I'm trying to suggest, how expensive or time consuming would it be to have to fix or undo this? So usually if it doesn't seem to fall very well, and there's another parameter to my own decision matrix, and I'm forgetting it today for some reason, but strategic. How does this particular issue relate to the company's or team's strategies? Because, and again, that's there to get the ego projects off the map. So I'm sometimes kind of running that in the back of my head, like, okay, I learned this, and it's not really valuable to the research. It doesn't affect that many people. I mean, sometimes I'll put it in anyway, but I'll say this is some low priority stuff that we also heard was this. And so sometimes I'll include some stuff, but, to say it isn't valuable, or, I'm never sure what's going to be valuable to somebody else. So usually even something that might seem a little bit weird or out of left field or an outlier to me, I'll usually put in my research report anyway, because I never know when someone else will read that and go, oh, wait a minute, there's something there. Let's learn more about that. So I usually try not to make any assumptions, but I'll certainly raise up what's going to be more urgent, more severe, more related to strategy, affecting more people, or would be crazy expensive or time consuming to have to redo later. Next is a combo question from LinkedIn. What are future UX trends? Where do you see UX going with future trends like autonomous vehicles or vehicles in general? The future. What is the future? Oh, I should really do this one. The future.
I'll go ahead and jump in first on this one. First, UX is pervasive. So when you look at standard, I keep mentioning the 4 pillars. I did a talk on the 4 pillars. In 10 years ago, it was about the 4 pillars. In 2020, it's about the 4 pillars. In 2030, it'll be about the 4 pillars. UX is not changing. It's not changing. It's just that you apply them to different venues. You apply UX to different things. One day you're doing UX on a website. I was at a design agency when the iPhone came out. Nobody knew what in the world to do, and now we're designing for apps. There was no mobile sites really. Yeah, that was a horrendous if you went to a website on a mobile phone. So we had to shift and we had to design for that. But we took the same principles and we moved there. Then the tablets came out and we shifted and we took the same principles and we applied it there. I did work in the past on interactive TV. We took the same principles for the other form factors. We applied it to interactive TV. They were working hard that a person goes into an auto service center and wheels it around the car, and they wanted to make sure that it was ergonomically optimal. And I took the same principles and I applied to everything else, and I applied it there. It doesn't change. I gave commentary on a dashboard for an autonomous vehicle, and yes, I was thrown completely under the bus for what I said. They were talking about all these great colors. They were looking at how beautiful it was and how sexy the interface was in the vehicle, and how you can tell that it went from this mode to that because other new light came on over here. And I said, what about the colorblind people? They wanted to crucify me. So but I did was take the same thing that applied in one area and I applied it to another. So don't fall for the hype that UX. The only thing that's changing is form factors. The principles are still the same, and we just learn the heuristics will evolve from one to another. We learn how to apply them one to the other. It's not changing. People want it to change because they know they don't have the skills and knowledge. Why they come at people like me and at Dr. Nick and at Debbie, they come at us because we talk about these things. It's all this newfangled stuff is trying to ignore the old, and the old will get you where you need to go. The new stuff's going to end up blowing up in your face.
Nick, anything to add?
I can't add much to that. Darren nailed it. But one other thing I would say, just to extend what he was saying at the end there, is get yourself out of that mode of thought where Not that you're trying to predict the future, because if you get good with principles, you'll be fine with virtual reality, augmented reality, voice, and whatever holographic stuff is coming in the future. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. It really does. Darren's right, but it's that trendiness and that fashion-based thinking that is unique to digital, I think. And if it infects your mind, it'll infect your career. So stick with what Darren's saying, and you'll stay safe.
Yeah, and I don't think I have anything to add to that. I agree. I think UX itself isn't trendy. We are sometimes working on new technologies, but other than new technologies, we're still applying same psychology principles and fundamentals at new technologies. So whether it's a thermostat or a wearable or your car dashboard or whatever it is. And as for the future of vehicles, I wish they would stop over-designing them. I think that the touchscreen dashboards are a danger and a distraction. They were a danger and a distraction in my parents' 1986 Buick Riviera, which was the first car to have a touchscreen, and my parents had one. They had the 89 Riviera, and then the touchscreen was gone. And someone figured out that it really doesn't make sense for you to be driving along the street and trying to adjust the EQ of your radio on something that was non-tactile that you couldn't see. And also, there's a great show that I enjoyed watching when I was in Canada doing some talks. I caught Kelly McDonald's show, and he's a blind guy with his own show. And he went to a car show, and he sat as a passenger in all of the cars at the car show, and he talked about which cars he loved and which cars he hated, because to him it was about which ones can he be independent, where can he change the radio station, where can he adjust the climate as a blind passenger. And he said the car I hated the most at the car show was the Tesla. He said, I can't do anything in this car but sit here. I have to ask someone to change the music. I have to ask someone to change the climate. I don't like this. I want to do it myself. And that really stayed with me, a lot of the stuff that I saw. So, watch some of Kelly McDonald's shows from Canada. It's on, I forget the name of the Canadian channel, but you can find him on YouTube. And I thought his show was really a lot of fun. So that'll get you really thinking about cars in a new way. Next, what's your opinion on the words used on call to action buttons? Should it be generic so it's not complicated to understand, or should you use words of what people are thinking? Call to action buttons, what do you think? Evidence.
I'm going to have two cards printed, one that says evidence and one that says user needs, because most things come down to one of those two answers.
Right. Right. Darren, anything to add to that? Or are we doing the lightning round?
Yeah. Still lightning, so I'll try to keep it as brief as I can. It's a part of information architecture, that part of UX that is people keep trying to oblivion somewhere because it's text, so it has to do with nomenclature. Information architecture is nomenclature. It's taxonomy. So the labels on a button should be intuitive. I think the word generic was used in the question, but it's really intuitive. And not that old. Years ago, you would see a button that would just say go, go where? Where are you going? So you don't have to be verbose on the button, but you do have to set expectations. You do have to set a strong information sent. You do want to set what's going to happen if I click this button. Try to make it clear. View more details. Learn more. Something. It not go, and not some ridiculous that is a generic label that means nothing. It sets no expectations. It doesn't help the person out. It doesn't give them confidence. You want people to have confidence when they click on something. So if your call to action does confidence or inform the users, then you need to take that back to the drawing board. Go test it. Watch and see what happens. And look at the time there's time to task again. If it takes them milliseconds more, and then you have another one that's more intuitive and it's milliseconds less, then you know which one is performing better. So make sure that things are intuitive. And it is information architecture, and anybody out there that doesn't know about information, that doesn't know about information architecture, don't fall again for the hype of the day thinking that information architecture is irrelevant. It is critically relevant today where you think that findability, the byproduct of information architecture, you remove that from any experience, you're dead in the water. So don't let anybody tell you that information architecture doesn't matter. It is a lie.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, but you went with the long version. I was going to say information architecture is partially about things being meaningful to the user, the customer, the whatever. And if it's not meaningful to them, doesn't matter. The story I always tell there, even though it's not about a button, is I had a client who was in the custom printing business, and they had something on their website that said Pro Vinyl. And I figured, oh, this must be a higher quality, thicker, wonderful vinyl for signs that restaurants can hang up. And I asked the client, what's Pro Vinyl? And they said, oh, it's vinyl in a custom size. And I said, well, it's not a higher quality vinyl? No, same vinyl. You pick the size instead of a standard size. And I said, well, that's meaningless to me. I assumed Pro Vinyl was a better vinyl. And they're like, well, it's an industry term. And I said, but I'm not in the industry, and neither are any of the churches or schools or brownie troops that are on your website trying to buy a sign. So it has to be meaningful to the user. And back on the driving thing, Larry Marine adds, they're trying to design vehicles to make driving safer. If you want to make driving safer, take out the seat belts and airbags and put in razor blades and spikes. People would be much more attentive to their driving behaviors.
Yep.
There you go. Next question.
It was Bill Hicks that suggested putting one ruddy great big spike in the middle of the steering wheel. And that would be the greatest change to road safety ever.
Right.
Sorry, there'd be a few sacrifices.
Bill Hicks.
And if you get shunted, that sucks too.
Right. Okay. Let's put that on bicycles too. So next, this I think came from Roshan, so it must be back in my thing here. I can't find it. It was, what's your opinion on design tests during the interview process? I was recently asked to do an entire application before even talking to the hiring manager. I refused.
Whoa.
Design challenges. What do we think?
It's the usual. It's free work, right? I think we're all going to give the same answer. It's free work. They want you. They want your ideas. Blah blah blah. I know Debbie, Darren, and I have answered this question a lot over the years in LinkedIn. Yeah, in a nutshell, they're trying to get you to do free work. Personally, unless it's a brand you desperately want to work for, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I think it's taking liberties, and I think it's a big sign of a department or a team or a person you do not want to work for. I think it's a bullet dodged.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Darren, anything to add? I was thinking of something Larry said, and I'm like, Larry, wait, he's not here. Darren.
Yeah, I agree. Step out of there and flat out tell them, no, I decline because it's unethical. I've done that before. You're not going to get the job, or the chances are you're not going to get the job, but you wouldn't have wanted the job.
Bullet dodge.
And it is good to be a spot quicksand-oriented job step in. And that's something I think we could all be better.
Nick, something to add?
One thing, sorry. Well, yeah, one thing I wanted to add was, when we're not in a pandemic and when you are physically running around the world and you've got less time and all that kind of stuff, when you go through these recruitment phases, you're not the only person you'll recruit. That person's not the only person you're hiring with. And other people will be asking you to do these sorts of tasks as well. And I had a period about 5 or 6 years ago where it's about Christmas time, during a 2-week period. On the weekend, I was trying to do 2 or 3 presentations for jobs as well as my own day work. And it's unfair, it's barbaric, and it's all free work. It's not right. So you might get away with it for one, but if one or more asks you to do that, you're going to have a massive logjam of your time, and it's stressful.
Yep, and Peaches says, it seems like a lot of really top brands have multi-stage interviews that ask people to do take-home tests. And I think the problem there is, what I find is, if you can't tell from someone's portfolio and interviewing them if they're any good at UX, what is the design challenge going to tell you that these other things couldn't tell you? And if the people at the company, I see you, Darren, if the people at the company don't understand UX well enough enough to assess candidates, how are they going to assess? Yeah, that's what you're going to say. How are they going to assess the design challenge? I also find that design challenges are usually poorly communicated, sometimes on purpose. They're incredibly vague. They often ask for things in ways that you can't tell what they want, and they don't want to answer your questions. And of course, as Dr. Nick said, they very often are just scraping for free work. Right. So I think that these are things that we can say no to. And certainly in all the talks and things that I do, when this comes up, I tell people, stop doing this. By the end of the year, I hope to have written my new training program for HR recruiters and hiring managers. And I will specifically be telling them no design challenges. You should be able to tell from a portfolio and from speaking to someone what their level of proficiency is. And if you cannot tell that, please bring in a Darren, Dr. Nick, Debbie consultant who will be happy to assess your candidates for you and tell you which ones have talent and capability. And then you can interview them for whatever you decide culture fit means. So that's my thought there. Darren, I still see you.
And in addition to that, the puzzles I mentioned earlier, IBM has people solving puzzles, putting shapes on the screen and trying to decide which shape doesn't belong or something like that. These will put you through, I have been through 30 to 45 minute processes where you're answering multiplication questions. You feel like you're in the 7th grade. What in the world does that have to do? You know, Tom had 2 apples and Jane had 4 apples. All this kind of crazy stuff. I mean, and it's far more discombobulated than that. But it's absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't say, especially when I look and see who's getting hired. That's Ford again. When I see who's getting hired over there and who's interviews, it's like, I'm not saying everybody's like that, but a lot of them are. They got through that. They were able to pass the puzzle. They did the puzzle. I interviewed for Johnson & Johnson once, and I did the puzzle. I came back for another interview, and that time, the same guy, I said, I'm going to pass on the puzzle this time. That says nothing about what I bring to the table. Companies are doing that because they have no confidence in their ability to evaluate talent. So they supplement their efforts with these silly puzzles that mean absolutely nothing. And I know what some of these companies are doing because I talk to people and then I see the people on LinkedIn. Oh, you work there. Huh? You work there? That means you went through such and such a process. So no wonder they hired you. And they didn't hire these other 4 or 5 people that I know about that couldn't even get another interview. You know, I interviewed with Facebook once and I only got to the 2nd round of interviews, but I saw a guy who had like a 10th of my experience who was on his 4th interview and his qualifications were fudged. How did he 4th interview? Then you're going to see him on LinkedIn. Congratulate Jim Bob for starting as
I'm
a
so
senior
humble and proud and honored to get this job.
And a lot of those people, that's exactly what they say. And a lot of times they're liars and they're shysters and they're damaging the discipline. You're going to take it? Probably would. But you're not qualified, and people that are don't get. And it's not just me. I know other people that don't get there. I know somebody that didn't get hired, didn't get interviewed for a strategy job, a UX strategy job. Your company had been working in UX strategy for the prior 4 to 5 years. Person who was the head of UX strategy, I used to work with them, and that person had been working in UX for like 6 months. He become a global head of something. This is terrible for all of us.
I know.
This is terrible. It's creating
happening
problems
all over. It's happening
everywhere.
All over the world, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I can barely get an interview because I'm in Italy. Suddenly, I was the hottest bucket of shit in San Francisco when I lived there. Now I'm over here, happy to work American hours, and all of a sudden I'm untouched. You're where?
I went for an interview a couple of weeks ago at a psychology brand. Obviously, I can't and won't say, but an agency with a psychology bent for a head of research position, my dream job. You know, finally, after all these years, kissing all these frogs, did one round, did the second round. I got feedback that I'm not scientific enough.
Yep.
You can literally accuse me of anything, but not being scientific enough when I'm like the lone voice in globally trying to bootstrap this thing. It's beggars belief.
Yeah, and funny enough, our next question is about your bat. So that works really well. That was a perfect segue. But first, let's mention that Larry Marine is saying, I had a company reach out to me unsolicited for a very senior position and then ask me to perform a design challenge. Someone asked Larry Marine to do a design challenge. The world can end now. Larry said, I not only told them no, but hell no. They asked why, and I just ignored them. Which brings us to our next question. So, Nick, hold on to that bat. How would you suggest we science-ify our research processes when not everybody understands or wants to understand the difference, especially if we don't have Dr. Nick's bat?
Okay. Sorry, question in a nutshell. Sorry, repeat that to me. How do I get science going without a bat?
How do we science-ify our research processes when not everybody wants to understand the difference?
You go ahead and make the world a better place whether they like it or not. That's the strategy that's worked for me so far, and that's what I'm going to do anyway. That means applying all those principles whether people like and know about it or not. And it's a bit like climate change. Like, what's the harm in making the world a cleaner place? So great, our kids are breathing in cleaner air. You know, it's like, it's only going to make things better. No one's ever going to go, how dare you do something that's evidence-based? You know, I can't understand that. And that's an argument I'm ready to have with anybody that wants to step up to me. So use the principles, live and breathe it, share the outcomes. You'll become an evangelist. You know,
I don't have a bat, but I do have a fly swatter.
No, okay, but like, I'm going to hold up my evidence card again, you know? Evidence is your bat. Evidence really is the bat that you hit people around the head with, but it's a loving hit. It's a love tap. The thing is that with evidence, you can change the world, or you should be able to. And if you can't, then you work with your highly political product manager to help you with that. Because that's really what this is about. You and your product manager together are a very dynamic team for that transformation. And they've got the connection upstairs, you've got the connection to the PM, and that through route is the way to change things. But it all starts with your evidence and your principles.
Darren.
I'm just going to reiterate what was said. What we do, we don't care what anybody thinks. We're not here to make anybody feel good. Politics and UX do not mix. So we're going to do something because it's right. We're going to do something because it benefits the users. We're going to do something because it helps us to get that sweet spot between user needs, business needs, constraints. And what somebody thinks does not move us one iota. It doesn't move the needle at all, one way or another. So, and I know some people early in your career, you're thinking about that kind of thing, you're considering it. And then as you mature, I'm going to challenge you, as you mature, start to let that stuff go, because it does not matter.
We have a follow-up question from LinkedIn. The follow-up question says, the issue here is, what if others bring evidence in the form of bad research or bad data? How do we combat somebody else's bullshit?
Woohoo! Yummy. Yummy.
Okay, so this is great. This is the argument that you should be having. This is a sign of maturity, in my opinion. What?
Yes.
I'm just plugging while you talk.
Okay. This is a sign of maturity. That's a good argument, right? Instead of arguing, should we do research, should we not do research? That's a bad argument. A good argument is my research is better than yours. Oh yeah, let's talk about that. And then you're looking at the world that Darren, I, other scientists, but specifically scientists live in, because that's the discussion that goes on in any scientific community, is about what methodology, what audience did you use, what have you, the thing that you learned, in what context did you learn it? How do you know it? Because there are different perspectives to knowledge, if you know what I mean. So if somebody comes at you and with some really market research that some really 2-bit agency has done, which is a very, very common use case, you just pick it apart. And I do this regularly. It doesn't make me the most popular guy. A lot of agency people utterly hate me for it. But if my client is spending money and making business decisions off of this, then damn right I'm going to point it out, unfortunately. So, and also it's your work. If you're charging for it, you need to be proud of it. If you can't be proud of it or defend it, tough. Yeah, so that's it basically in some kind of a lightning nutshell.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna buy a lightning graphic for next time. Just to remind us. Next question, because we said we would finish in 5 minutes. So this is it, everybody. Last questions. I've got 3 and then we're signing off. What is that? What is that? Darren, what is
my
that?
My calibrator, my monitor. Yeah, somebody said I needed a prop, so I picked up my monitor calibration tool.
Wonderful. Great.
Hey, Ignatius. How you doing, man?
The last, we have 3 questions left. One of them is, what books are you guys reading at the moment? Darren, what are you reading?
Oh my God. Books are so terrible today. I mean, seriously, it used to be when we were first coming along, everything seemed like great. Man, if you never read, a matter of fact, I say this all the time, good UX books have a long shelf life. They're still just as important today as they used to be. So if you've never read The Inmates Are Running the Asylum by Alan Cooper, please do it. If you've never read The Elements of User Experience by Jesse James Garrett, please do it. If you've never read the books that Susan Weinschenk has wrote, 100 Things You Need to Know About People, things that and the sequels, go get them. You won't find much like the Delta CX book that Debbie wrote. You won't find a lot of that today. You won't find a lot of things that, I have a book list out on LinkedIn. I call it my living, breathing book list. And I've only
You keep forgetting to put me on that.
No, you're on it.
Okay, thanks.
I put you on the day when you were on the show. I went and I was on your show. I was attending.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm not on this list.
I put you toward the top of the list during that show. All
right.
And I remember Lean UX. Stop reading Lean UX. Stop reading that. So,
yeah. Stop reading Lean UX, everybody. Burn
there
it.
are a lot of books today. People are trying to make money and they don't care about the discipline. I'm not going to help you I'm not going to participate in you crowdsourcing a book. A nameless person did a book that they were crowdsourcing. I'm not going to do that. You got paid. They didn't. That's not ethical. And then all of them are, I am in the book. I participated in the book. They're happy because their name is in the book. They're not happy because they did anything that helped the discipline. And then somebody else crowdsourced information about psychology. That information was already on the web because you went.
The Laws of UX book. Laws of UX.
Yeah, and then you went and did a book about the same thing. That stuff already existed. It was curated, and everybody I know who loves that book. Ooh, this is really great. This is the best thing I've ever seen. You never see any of those people implement any of that stuff that they love from the book into their work. You know why? Because they don't care. And you know why? Because nothing's there. This stuff already existed. All this stuff about Gestalt theories and Fitz law and all this stuff already existed. You didn't do anything. And these people who plug their books, and that's all they ever do in social media, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Like something somebody else said every once in a while. Embracing somebody else's discussion every once in a while. Stop plugging you. The discipline isn't about you. You really been around as long as you said? Then do something that's going to help push the discipline forward instead of writing your book and then coming to me on LinkedIn and telling me, you should stop talking about fighting a fight of UX. This isn't a fight. It ain't a fight because you're not fighting. You're getting paid for doing nothing. Jesus. It's insane. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
I agree with you. I'm laughing at what Larry Marine wrote. It's on the screen.
It's absolute insanity. It's absolute insanity. And then I have people coming on my posts on LinkedIn. Well, that's not what we're talking about, man. Get out of here with that.
Darren's so mad he's killing his own Wi-Fi. Okay. Nick, what books are you reading at the moment? That was the original question.
I don't read. I don't read. There's not much I can recommend. I tend not to read anything anymore because I don't. By applying I'm creating my own material, if you know what I mean. I'm creating my own books in my head by applying all these principles and trying things out and failing and you know what I mean, on live projects and products. And that's what I've been doing for the past few years. I gave up on. There's such a lot of garbage out there. Like all the books that Darren mentioned are awesome. I'm not knocking what I would consider staples, cornerstones of our industry.
Yeah.
But some of the more latter day stuff, all that agile, all the other shit, I don't care. I just don't care. Is there anything there from UX? No. Bring this back to the base of Debbie's pyramid. If you get great with the building blocks, and do it through experience and mentored stuff, that's the best thing you can do. Everybody wants a shortcut, a playbook, something they can read. What people don't understand is that our profession is experiential. You have to learn by doing. And ideally, that's learned by doing with somebody who's done it before, leading you through that as a mentor.
Yep. And my answer is I don't make time to read books because I'm too busy writing books and writing training programs and writing articles and writing stuff. So I have to admit I'm not reading other books, but mostly because I haven't found a book where I've been like, holy crap, I've got to read that. Once in a while I feel that way. I buy the Kindle version and I read it when I'm on an airplane. But guess what, kids? Haven't been on an airplane since February 27th, so I'm a little behind on some of my reading. But I don't spend time reading. I prefer to in the evening I settle down and I watch my favorite YouTubers, Two Set Violin and Tasting History. And we need the lightning round. So and Larry wants me to mention that I'm working on another book with a certain special secret co-author who we shouldn't name. So, but he might look a little like this. So, two more questions, and that is, where can we find resources that can help beginners to know about UX principles? What's the best way to learn UX? That's one question. We've got another question after that, and that'll be the last one we take for today. Resources to help beginners with UX principles. Nick?
I'm going to ask my friend Deadpool here. Deadpool, what do you think? Hi, mate. Hang on.
Is this Gallagher?
Well.
Is this Gallagher all of a sudden? Darren, do you have a watermelon and a sledgehammer?
No, I'm looking around. All I have is my bike behind me.
Darren, you guys are old enough to remember Gallagher, right? This isn't just me.
I love Gallagher. This is the best I can do.
Is Gallagher was the sledgehammer and the watermelon comedian, the props guy?
Yes.
Oh
my God. The guy was hilarious. Very witty.
Anyway, what was the question again? Sorry, what was the question
exactly. Where can we find resources that can help beginners to learn about UX principles? Y'all are punchy. You got to go to bed.
Okay, so very quickly, if you want to you're going to have to make a choice and learn research or design and then come around and do the other one, depending on what way you want to do it. But you can't learn it all in one go. You're going to have to break it down. Personally, I'm biased, so I think research is a good area to start. Pick up an introduction to psychology textbook. There should be lots of things, better books about user research out there, or at least doing scientific, both qualitative and quantitative research, not market research. I would start there personally.
Sounds good. Darren?
A combo of two things. Because a lot of us were self-learned up front, and so it still has value today. You just have to have the right source. I recommend that people go to uxmatters.com. I've always found them to have a lot of integrity in the content that they present. The articles will be all over the place, but if you just have that as part of your own personalized learning network and continue to tap into those articles and read them, that would be good. I also recommend people, I've been doing this, recommending that people go. There is a program through University of Michigan where they teach you about the basics of UX design and research, and it really is dirt cheap. So you don't have to, you save your thousands from the boot to go over there. You're going to get something. It's supported by an accredited institution instead of somebody that's just trying to get your money.
Okay, or both. Okay, and the last question is, can you do observational research remotely? What sort of tools are available?
I'm doing this right now on my current gig, and also somebody asked it on LinkedIn about pandemic research. Observational research, when you mean that by that, I mean you mean like contextual inquiry, ethnographic style, i.e. watching somebody doing a thing, right? Now, traditionally, non-pandemic style, that's many times is a privacy concern if it's if you're looking at CCTV cameras and getting access to other data sources. It very much depends on the thing that you want to look at. If it's a flow of people, obviously you can do that at distance or with a lens, or you know what I mean. It should be able to. There's ways of doing socially distant observation, if you know what I mean. I think that's what we're talking about here. Also, do bear in mind that pandemic research isn't just doing a Zoom interview, and that's what, or using usertesting.com. There are observational techniques. I would strongly suggest that you think really around outside the box right now. What other data you've got that might be able to tell you things that would infer those things. So whilst you might not be able to do a thing, looking at, I don't know, logins, for example, using a mag strip if you're looking at that, you know, like physical door lock things, or if you've got CCTV cameras you can get access to. Obviously, I don't know the thing that you're investigating, so I'm talking really broadly, but I'm trying to give you examples of ways you might be able to observe this behavior either directly or indirectly through logs, etc.
Okay. And I just did this as well, and so we did observational research using Zoom, and it was a digital product, so we had people share their screens, and we were able to watch them do certain things. We had questions before, and we had questions after. So I think when it's a digital product, these types of video conferencing things can be a good start. If it's not digital, then I'm not too sure that Zoom is really going to cover it well, because especially for an in-person observational research, very often you're trying to get multiple camera angles and the thing the person is doing. So I'm not too sure where that's going to go. I'm not necessarily the expert on that either. But there you go. We're going to have to stop there. We're over time. So special thanks. We'll give Darren and Nick each a chance to tell everybody where you can find them out on the interwebs, where you can follow them, listen to them, podcast with them, connect with them. Darren, where can we find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, of course. Usually pretty active out there. There's a UX Uncensored YouTube channel that I'm planning on publishing some new content published just for YouTube in the not too distant future. I've got a Patreon channel that's about to go up in the not too distant future. I have a World of UX page on LinkedIn now. So if you want to tap into some things that are just revolving around the podcast, you can tap into the podcast. The latest episode just came out today, The World of UX with Darren Hood. And I think I just covered everything. I think I did.
Grazie. Senor Nick, where can we find you?
Don't worry, I'll come find you.
With a bat. I grew up with the mafia, Dr. Nick. You're a little bit soft and cuddly for my taste. I know. Yeah. No offense.
I'm on LinkedIn. You probably found me there already, and I'm on Twitter. I probably ought to do a lot more with my UX psychology channel. But I'm lazy and busy and all that kind of stuff. So many apologies. If you want to, please do subscribe to the UX Psychology channel on YouTube, and I will be doing something in the future with it. Thank you.
Great. And I think most people know where to track me down. Of course, there is the YouTube subscription. I highly recommend. And of course, please empathize with the like button. Won't you feel with it? And you can also join the Delta CX Slack channel. It's totally free. There is no subscription or membership, unlike other people out there. So just join up with the Slack and connect with the low ego action hero community, and direct access to me as well. We have over 300 people there now, so it's starting to heat up a little bit. Other than that, what else can I tell you? Tomorrow we're going to be doing a podcast on human factors. Don't Don't forget to come back next week for another round of Office Hours Ask Us Anything with Darren and Dr. Nick, with lots of gratitude to them. And then look for the schedule in December. I'm going to be scheduling a bunch of micro lessons, which are hour to hour and a half tactical classes on different topics. There's no charge. Someone's asking me what software I use to stream. This is vMix. It is not sponsored, but I am a super crazy fan. It is Windows only. I'm a super crazy fan of vMix, and even though the problem I had last night and had to kill my stream some minutes in, but that was not their fault. I messed something up. So on that note, I will play us out of here. Thanks again to both of you for joining. Get some sleep, get some food, and happy turkeys to you, Darren, and everybody else, and see you soon. Thanks. Bye. Thanks for watching. Delta CX is available for consulting and projects related to CX and UX strategy, leadership, training, problem finding, problem solving, and innovation. Learn more at deltacx.com.